Levi, on the day of your bar mitzvah, I want to share with you a very special story of Reb Mendel Futterfass. Reb Mendel Futterfass was a Yid that went on Mesiras Nefesh b'Poil in Russia. And he was actually very involved in helping Yidden and Chassidim leave Russia, very instrumental. And when he realized that loophole that was being utilized to help Chassidim get out, it was after the Second World War, he tried to smuggle himself out. And he actually asked a close friend of his, Rabbi Yoina Poltaver, should I leave? It's the last train. And Rabbi Yoina, which was his friend and actually worked together with him in establishing the underground network of Chadarim, told him, it's mashma from them as Mesiras Nefesh hatoicha grenitz. Mashma that if so, there's a limit to how much Mesiras Nefesh one can handle. And Mendel took it very seriously. It wasn't just like a Chassidish Vart said by Farbrengen. It was, but he took it much deeper than that. And he let his family go to London, and he stayed for another 20 years. He was almost 20 years. He was arrested and was in Siberia for 9 years, if I remember correctly. And finally, Reb Mendel was let out, and then he was hiding in Samarkand by houses of Chassidim. He was, finally there was actually international pressure to get him out of Russia, to save him. And when they finally approved his departure from Russia, they told him to stay in a very specific place till let him know that now this is the plane you're going to be flying on, and you leave. Reb Mendel, which was like the kachlafel between the Chassidim, he was the Ruach HaChaim in Samarkand, wanted to farbring with them one last time. He wanted to leave them with Chayis and Idud. So he called to him a Chossid, his name was Matal Kozliner, and told him, Matal, I want to farbring with you. Matal said, I don't want to come. Because if I come, there's a spotlight on Reb Mendel, obviously because there was a whole to-do, there was the politicians that got involved, and he was a pretty central figure at this point. I want to stay out of the limelight. And Mendel said, if you don't come to me, I'm going to come to you. Which would mean much bigger problems, because Mendel was told to stay in a specific place. So the Matal understood that it's not a joke, and he has to come for bring with him. So the Matal Kozliner came, and he came to the Mendel, and the Mendel started for bringing with him, started trying to give him chayis and tell him, it's going to be great, Bezos Hashem, and it wasn't working. The Matal, they weren't so, they weren't ready to let go of Mendel, and they didn't have anyone to replace him. At some point, Reb Mendel told him, "Shachstech Chossid, you think I'm leaving you here yourself? Chossid the Rebbe is mentioned. You with serious people dedicated to the Rebbe that are gonna be dedicated out in the Mesiras Nefesh for everything that needs to get done." And Reb Mendel started mentioning names, and biyachas to the names he could have mentioned, he was mentioning the wrong names. He was mentioning young people. Younger Bachrim, younger light. Wasn't mentioning the big tziyurim. And Matal, at some point, said, "No taka, this is the people you're living with. That's what we taka have left." So Reb Mendel said, "I want to tell you who I'm mentioning." Listen closely, lady. He said the following. He said that every child in Cheder knows who's a Rasha. Esav a Rasha. A Rasha and Rasha. In Pshuta Shel Mikra, what did Esav do wrong? You don't find... He was mentioning the wrong names. He was mentioning young people. Younger Bachrim, younger light. Wasn't mentioning the big tziyurim. And Matal, at some point, said, "No taka, this is the people you're living with. That's what we taka have left." So Reb Mendel said, "I want to tell you who I'm mentioning." Listen closely, lady. He said the following. He said that every child in Cheder knows who's a Rasha. Esav a Rasha. A Rasha and Rasha. In Pshuta Shal Mikra, what did Esav do wrong? You don't find... In Midrashim tell us he tried to chap a treif animal and give his father, wasn't Shem Shemaim Shagar Befiv, Kol Esav, etc. But in Pshuta Shal Mikra, the Pashta Pshat says Remendel to the Matal, the only thing we find in Pshuta Shal Mikra that he did wrong, he sold his achrayis, his responsibility as an older brother, for nizid adashim, for lentils, for nothing. Says Mendel, that's called, the people that I'm mentioning are people that have achrayis, they have responsibility. They know there's a job that has to get done. Maybe they're not perfect, no one's perfect. But they know there's a job that has to get done, and they're dedicated. These are the people I'm mentioning. This is at the heart of what a bar mitzvah is. This is the way it is by every yid. When all of a sudden you become part of an Eidah, what you do really matters. If you're there, you make the minyan. If you're not there, you can't say Kaddish. Good, you fill, you bring the Shechina. That's by everybody. Then Kol Shkein by us Chassidim. We're zeicha to be tasked by the Rebbe with an unbelievable shlichus, which is that we don't just care for our own Torah mitzvahs, we also care for another Yid to the extent that we care for his Torah mitzvahs as well. I'll give you an example. You know, what's the difference between someone in the military or a civilian? A civilian is walking down the street and you see someone breaking into a car. Bazok there. Most people say, listen, it's not my car, it's not my cousin's car. Garnish Gazan. I want to get into fight over here. A soldier, a policeman, someone in the military sees someone breaking into his car, it's my business. You can't say, I didn't see. This is what you're here for. Al-Bavitch Chossid, the way the Rebbe was mechanachas, and the avoid of Deir Shvi is that there's no, when we see another Yid didn't put on film, other people, other Kreisen could say, it's nicht mein Shidduch, it's not my yichis. Shine, let's krecht. Oy. Or, best case scenario, let me do kiruv because this is because it's a mitzvah that I could get. A Lubavitcher is military. The Rebbe says a chayil, Chossid Yerushalayim Balamdim. If another Yid didn't put on tefillin, it's my business. Not pshat, it's my mitzvah that I could gain over the other Yid. It's my business. And therefore, the achrayis of a bar mitzvah bacher, like you, I want to bench you. That you should always feel, not only the achrayis, but the sipuk, the gishmake feeling from what it feels to be a chassid, and to have not only your own mitzvahs, but to have like a general, the responsibility of more Yidden, and bring the Eibusher such nachas, and with the Rebbe's brachas and with the Rebbe's guidance, always bring the light of Yiddishkeit and the light of Chassidus to your own oilam, which is oilam katan za'adam, the avoid of pnimis of Chabad, and the avoid of Deir Shvi, the hoysafo, the avoid of Deir Shvi, bringing the light of Kedusha, the light of Chassidus, the light of pnimis Torah and Galia Torah and Halacha, all the way to all the people that are under your jurisdiction, that you were zeicha to bring together with you to the Gula Mitzvah Shlema with his gals, take it from Yad Mamish. Mazel Tov Levi.